Alright, so, well, a lot's happened since the last video, and we're still going to be on plants, and I talked to y'all last about talking about poisons in plants, and life update, no, had a baby, and that's my baby. Alright, that's little Harvey Jacob Wisnant, that's his name, and he is precious, but he came a little early. He only weighs 4 pounds, so he's almost heavy enough to be brought home. So, and I'm recovering from surgery. So it's been a whirlwind of 1.5 weeks for me and my husband and the whole family. So hoping everyone is doing well as you listen to this video. And I am going to be doing the extension that we talked about plants, and that is going to lead us into our next classification of organisms, so just hold on to your hats. Alright, so watching that, you saw that plants usually need nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. These are the 3 main chemicals that all plants need. If you ever go to the fertilizer section at Home Depot or Walmart and you look at the bags or the boxes, you'll see 3 numbers on them. They represent these chemicals and the ratio amounts that they are found in the actual fertilizer. And different kind of plants need, let's say bulbs need more phosphorus and potassium, but not as much nitrogen. Leafy vegetables will need more nitrogen, but not as much, let's say, potassium. But things that are going to bloom, okay, and produce fruit need less nitrogen, more potassium, more phosphorus, okay, and also calcium. You can have a lot of things arise like blossom end rot in your tomatoes because you don't have enough calcium in the soil to actually help fruit production. So, looking at these 3 things, plants use these not only in growth and cell management and everything, but they also use them to their advantage when it comes to their defense systems. We talked about a little bit how plants defend themselves in that one video, but plants also defend themselves with groups of chemicals called alkaloids. Okay, these are basic poisons that are found in plants. Now they produce other things like oils and phenolics and glycosides, but we're not going to get into all that. I just want you to know about alkaloids. Now you're thinking alkaloids, I don't really know anything about that, it's because of chemistry, okay, but a few of them you probably already heard of. Things like caffeine. I think they're for the E and I. So caffeine is actually an alkaloid, what you find in coffee and tea, caffeinated tea. Okay, so coffee is a stimulant, and it's actually meant to try and keep bugs away by giving them mini heart attacks. So caffeine is another one. Nicotine. If you've heard of nicotine patches for people who are trying to stop smoking, nicotine is found in tobacco, and it is also considered an insect repellent and is a stimulant. So if it's used by itself, granted it is addictive in large amounts, but if it's used by itself can actually increase cell development, okay, if you don't smoke it. Let's see here. We also have morphine, which we get from opium, like opium poppies. Okay. Yeah, it's a major pain relief. Addictive as well. A lot of alkaloids, unfortunately, are addictive. People can be addicted to caffeine, can be addicted to morphine. But in small, regulated amounts, Morphine can really help people who are having non-chronic bouts of pain. Right now I'm taking medication to relax my pain every 8 hours. And that's good because I got a big cut in my belly. Alright, and this last one you may not have heard of, but it is very important, especially when it came to tropical exploration. Quinine. Quinine is an anti-malarial drug that is used frequently all around the world to help people who have already caught malaria. Alright, so quinine. Other things that we see, okay, that these basic things are used for, and let me close the door because my mother-in-law calling, and as much as I love her, and I do love her, don't get me wrong on that, I am recording. Not now! Jeez. Okay, sorry, my husband called for me. I'm like, no! I'm trying to get things done. Well, before he comes home, and I'm not going to be able to sleep. Alright, we also use a lot of these chemicals we find in plants for natural medicine. Ginger is a great suppression for queasy stomach. Can also prevent altitude sickness or motion sickness. Peppermint, great for upset stomachs as well. Helps with healthy digestion. But it is actually used by the peppermint plant to repel insects from eating on its leaves. And it's actually really effective. If you see a peppermint plant, you'll often see that it has nice, healthy looking leaves with very little holes in it from insects. And of course, all the herbs that we use to flavor our stuff, thyme, basil, parsley, those are all full of phenolics that repel insects and keep them at bay, yet we find them to be amazingly tasteful and smell really good to us. So that's just an example of some of the chemicals we find in everyday items that come from plants that help us just live better lives, because plants don't have to be dull. Alright, we also have plants that are considered deadly, okay, or harmful because of where they come from. So let's take this one. We're going to start with 2 buds at the top. And they're going to droop. And then we're going to actually have trumpet-like blossoms. And these are great. I just love when the bees go in them. The bees really like to come in and fertilize them and just give them a kind of central stem. Alright, and maybe some little stamens sticking out. Lots of polka dotties. I'll zoom in on that, I'm sorry. And a man looked at this and called it digitalis. A woman, who's way more whimsical, looked at this and called it a foxglove. I love foxgloves, and they're very, very soft, hairy leaves that also repel insects. But you'll notice that no insects eat it because they immediately have heart attacks and die. And it'll do that to you too if you eat it. But foxgloves, or digitalis, also are used for heart arrhythmia medicine. Because we have found that a lot of these poisons are actually a concoction of different chemicals. You saw how many chemicals an arum plant released just to make it smell like rotting meat. But if you break them down into the individual components of this poison, we can actually identify and isolate parts that allow us to use these plants to our advantage. So heart arrhythmia, that means your heart isn't pumping in rhythm. It has a tick, it has a pause, and you don't want that, because eventually that pause will get bigger and bigger and bigger and will eventually strain your heart to the point of heart attack. So heart arrhythmia medicine actually balances out the rhythm of the heart, so you prevent that. Another one I just love, we're going to give it kind of a rat's beak looking thing. Turn it into a party hat. And you're going to give it 5 petals. And very beautiful, shiny blackberries. So kind of have little party hats. The berries are very pretty, I gotta say. I've rolled them around in my hand before because I found these. But this plant is very much deadly. Big cause of infant mortality and child mortality. Back in the Middle Ages, Middle Age books would say, pull this plant up if you found it. It has no place in your garden. You do not need to grow it for anything. But this is belladonna. Beautiful name for such a deadly nightshade plant. This is also known as deadly nightshade. What would we even use something that even has deadly in its name for? Breaking down the components of this, which is actually in the same family as tomatoes and potatoes and peppers, the nightshade family. So yes, it's related to things that we actually eat on a regular basis. Belladonna nightshade is actually used as an eye relaxant. A small component of this will actually, if you go in for an eye exam and they put those drops in your eyes, they're actually using a part of belladonna to relax all the muscles around your pupil to let it dilate, so they can actually shine a light into your eye and check on your retina at the back of your eye ball, pretty much. It was also used during Victorian times by women as a beautifying agent to make them have large pupils so they looked more alluring to men, which was interesting. Unfortunately, a lot of those also came either with too high dosage and would cause the people to go blind, or they would be mixed with other things like lead, morphine, other things. They just use morphine for everything, just like they use cocaine for pretty much everything, from toothaches to pain, because cocaine does, in a way, make you feel good. I mean, and that's also from the cocoa plant. Fun fact, if you ever take organic chemistry in college, they actually tell you how to make cocaine, because it has a very unique triangular structure in it that easily breaks to pretty much turn into cocaine from the alkaloid pulled from the cocoa plant. Don't tell your parents that. Alright, so that being said, there is a group of animals that also use a lot of these poisons to their advantage. And we talked about these poisons being used to repel insects, but some insects have actually realized how to cheat the system. And yes, insects is going to be the next, I don't want that, the next class of animals we are going to I love insects. They're so misunderstood. Insects are awesome. And you should really enjoy them too, because they really are misunderstood. We cannot survive without insects. We really can't. So let's go over some of the main parts of insects, and we'll talk about a few different types of insect groups that are out there that everyone probably knows and loves or doesn't love. I've seen people absolutely flip out by saying there's a ladybug on you, and ladybugs not really can't hurt you, okay? I'm always amazed how quickly people flip out about insects. Okay, so insects. Basic, we're going to do basic way of drawing them. Okay. Men like women with a big back porch. Alright, we're going to start with these three major parts. You can connect them. Alright, so we have the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Alright, these animals all have at least one set of compound eyes. That means that instead of having one eyeball that looks out, they actually have a lot of mini eyeballs, okay, in a way. Mini seeing units, I really should say, that all work together to plug into one optic nerve going into. So it's like a bunch of cameras working together to make one picture for the insect. So the compound eyes. And a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of insect species actually have small, simple eyes. Zoom in a little bit on this. That only can see like night and day. So simple eyes as well. Or they may be able to see, you know, in one color. Maybe they're looking for a certain type of color. Alright, a lot of insects do have mouth parts. We're going to go with kind of more the pincer mouth parts called mandibles. Okay. To pick up pheromones that are being released by plants or other insects, especially at mating time. When you're itty bitty and you only have so long to live, it is important that you find a mate as fast as possible. And the best way to do that, since you're so itty bitty and your eyesight only goes so far, is to smell out your mate. Okay? And we actually use this to our advantage quite a bit as humans. Okay, so antenna. Really focus in on how to smell out of those complex compounds that they're looking for. Of course, all insects have jointed 6 legs. I'm going to put little things on there. I'm not going with really any kind of species here. I'm just coming in with something. Okay. These will be something, I promise. Okay. We're going to have 2 legs up and 2 legs back. Like I said, we cannot live without insects. We cannot have a lot of things. We would be up to our eyeballs in dead animals if it wasn't for insects who help break them down. Yes, flies and maggots are not very nice, but to think about. But they do serve their purpose here on this planet break down old dead wood. Termites do have their place out in the wild, not eating your house so much, but they do break down wood into parts that can rot faster, that make homes for more insects, homes for more animals like newts, different types of rodents, things like that out in the forest. They are a major food source for many, many, many animals. Yes, you can put bird seed out for the adult birds, but the baby birds aren't going to eat that. The baby birds need a lot of protein. They need to grow super fast. They need to be fed insects. So every time you use, or your dad or your mom use pesticides out in your yard, you're really hurting way more than just insects. You're hurting whole food chains. We do not use pesticides in my yard at all. Just saying. Just saying. All right, we got sphericals. Hang on, I'm having a pregnancy brain moment. Yeah. Sphericals. These are actually where they breathe in, and they are usually found in the abdomen and thorax, because a lot of these animals have what are called book lungs, and they're called that because they look like, well, they look like books that open and close like that, kind of like accordions that are found inside. Coming from here, we of course have wings. Wings will always come from the thorax. Ooh, I really can't spell now. Wings. Okay. And there's other parts like carapaces and things like that. All insects are going to have slightly different ways of being put together with this. Yep. Okay, and that's about it. That's about the basic anatomy of a basic insect. Of course, it will change insect to insect. Alright, so I'm going to give you all a minute to get that. A lot of these, especially back end, is segmented. I don't know if I can tell that story or not. Fun fact, my professor in college, my advisor, who is amazingly smart, is an entomologist, or someone who studies insects. She's so good at it that the Army has tried to recruit her on multiple occasions to solve insect-related problems in the wars we've had in the Middle East, to which she says no, because she's a big pacifist as well. But she would always tell me interesting stories about the insects that she either caught, or she would have them on display in her office, or she of course had Madagascar hissing cockroaches in her lab that she lovingly named Homer and Martha. It was Marge, like the Simpsons, until they realized Martha liked moving things around in her thing and actually decorating. They're actually smarter than you think. Decorating their enclosure with the different tubes and little hidey holes that they had. So they renamed her after Martha Stewart at the time. Unfortunately, Homer and Martha have since passed since I was in college. But yes, let's go over some classifications of insects. Mm-hmm. Doop. Doop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where is that one slide I had? All right. Coleoptera. Anything that you see optera means insect. Okay. okay? Or just the ptera at the end. Alright, so Coleoptera, largest classification group of anything, surprisingly, beetles. Beetles are huge in the amount of species numbers that we find around the world. And what makes them so unique, okay, is that yes, we have a head. Yes, we have a thorax with a carapace or a strong shell on top, but we also have the wing shields at the back that are hinged so they can actually open up, and they have folded wings that can actually open up underneath. And of course have the, we'll go with the ladybug with this one. Doop, 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 doop. Yes, ladybugs are actually not bugs, they are actually beetles. And those two white spots you see at the front are not eyes. No, sir. They are not eyes. They're eye spots. Which is the fun part of them. So, Coleoptera, beetles. Next big one, Hymenoptera, ants, wasps, let's see, and bees. I'm going to go with the mud dabber for this one because I think they look like sick long motorcycles. Not going to lie. Usually have teardrop shaped heads. And we're going to go really long and come in like this for their stinger part. Which, by the way, if you ever see mud daubers, they really don't care about stinging you. They just want to be left alone. They're not very aggressive. So if you have a few, don't freak out. The bent antennae are very indicative of this group. Having single or double wings is sometimes in here. Of course, a lot of these have large eyes to allow them to see. Wasps are predatory, yellow jackets are predatory, ants, of course, are collectors. Not exactly predatory, but they will zone in on certain things. So pretty good eyesight for these guys. Fun fact also, a lot of them are actually pretty good flyers. Bumblebees, according to the laws of physics, should not even be able to fly, but they still do. Beetles, on the other hand, terrible flyers, just terrible. Maybe that's why the kid screamed when the ladybug landed on them, because the ladybug wasn't even aiming for them and didn't want to even be bothered with them, but managed to land on them anyways. And she flipped out. Alright, Lepidoptera. Most people don't flip out when these land on them. So, Lepidoptera, butterflies, and moths. So, of course, butterflies and moths. We have usually nice, long abdomen, can be fuzzy. Moths are stupid fuzzy. Long antennae that are fern-like, because moths, since they do not have the advantage of flying around during the daytime, and they're mostly nocturnal, really rely on scent, on finding their food and finding a mate. Of course, all species of these guys have double wing, with the primary wing and the secondary wing underneath, and of course brightly patterned, usually. Some have eye spots to make predators think twice about eating them because it looks like they're looking back at them. That's a big thing for a lot of these animals, to either camouflage themselves or make themselves disgusting tasting. Fun fact, on Time magazine there was a baby immature blue jay who was offered a monarch butterfly who had no wings. They'd ripped off the wings, and they offered it to the blue jay, and they took a series of photos, time-lapsed pretty much, 9 photos to put on the front of Time, and it goes from a very happy blue jay that's just been offered something to eat, eating it happily, and then the next few panels are it steadily getting sicker and sicker until it finally throws up. And why that made it onto Time magazine, I don't know, but it did. But yeah, if you're going to be disgusting, be disgusting. It only takes one of you being eaten for that animal to realize, you don't want to eat any more of these. And talking about disgusting, Diptera flies. Fruit flies, house flies, bottle flies, maggot flies. The kind that come and dance in your food. I'm afraid huge eyes, sucking parts, very short antenna, kind of squat, usually has hairs and things like that on it, usually one pair of wings, and yes, they can taste with their feet. And they also do vomit into your food to help pre-digest it before they suck it back up with their special sucking mouth parts. Blah. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of flies. I have all the fly devices and fly umbrellas over cookout food stuff because they're gross. They're so gross. But necessary. Food for a lot of animals, and take care of all those dead things too. Alright, and then we've been talking about these, but we've been talking about insects so far. And then someone came along and was like, let's confuse everyone and call them Hemiptera, or true bugs. Now, this is the class of bugs my college professor studied the most. Especially when it came to the assassin bug family. Okay, so assassin bugs are in the true bugs category. Also cicadas, things like that. I'm going to honor my college professor, my advisor, by going to start with a triangular thorax. Don't have a true carapace like beetles. Going to give it a real pinhead. And the reason they're called assassin bugs is if you turn them upside down, you'll see they have a large, piercing, sucking mouth part that pierces and sucks the life out of any insects they catch in the garden. But they also like to pierce my tomatoes and eat them too. And that's what she studied, was things that would pierce and suck beans, tobacco plants, tomatoes, assassin bugs, like all those kind. Also, stink bugs are actually in the assassin bug family. So, true bugs. She would be so happy with me. I actually made her a spoon rest that had one of these on it. Special order. I don't think I'll ever make one again, but I was happy to make one for her. So yeah, so those are some of the classifications of insects that we, of course, have. And we will study and go over a very special type of insect for your next assignment. And we'll also go over an art technique that really kind of brings out the beauty of insects altogether. So I can't wait until then. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.